What's up, my dudes? So, as you've seen from the last video, we had a restriction, and it's the intake manifold. So, I just picked up an Skunk 2 Ultra Street manifold from a buddy of mine. It's already been ported. Fucking beautiful. And a 70mm throttle body ready to go together. I have some things here that I need: throttle cable bracket, idle air control valve relocation, and some odds and ends that I needed. Like I have a hose I need to replace, stuff like that. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing on, and hopefully get some dyno time this weekend. Well, we'll see. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this thing unbuttoned. I'll catch up whenever we go to put it on and see how we have to mount the idle air control valve and a couple other things. But I'm just gonna get this thing torn off and see where we have to go from there. Alright guys, the manifold is off. Alright, the only thing I have to do now is to move over the fuel rail and the injectors and the intake air temperature sensor, map sensor, and TPS to this manifold and throttle body. And cool thing about this manifold is it is drilled for GSR head and B17 head, so you can use this on both. And this hole right here comes with a block plate basically, and it'll just block it off. Still gotta clean it up a little bit, but yeah, this is coming over nice. I'm gonna move the fuel rail over with the injectors and the intake air temp sensor, and I'm going to install the lower today, and tomorrow we'll install the plenum and the throttle body. So we got some issues, but we are finding solutions. Alright, so I'm using Snake Eater Performance 1000cc injectors, okay? Stock rail. You have to use a top hat with these to adapt them to the fuel rail for Honda size, because the top of the injector is too big. Alright, cool, whatever. I have those. I've had that on the stock manifold. But the fuel pressure regulator blocks the intake air temperature sensor. So what I did was took off the IAT, made a plate, put some RTV on it. It's sealed for now. I will get an actual block off plate and put an O-ring in there, but for now that's gonna work. I'm going to relocate that intake air temperature sensor into the intake tube. That'll give me more consistent readings and actual air temp. Alright, so we got that past that hurdle. I go to mount it, right? Now this manifold, if you guys didn't know, is drilled for GSR heads and B16 heads. This hole is meant for the GSR. Now my thermostat housing is coming in contact with this, so I can't get these holes to line up. The motherfucker won't go on. So what I have to do, which it devalues the manifold, but whatever, I'm probably gonna keep it. I have to I'm gonna lop half of this hole off and see if that will clear. If that clears, I'm Gucci. It's not like I'm gonna have a vacuum leak from that or anything. So I'm gonna cut half this hole off, see if this clears. If it clears, we're good, because these holes will line up, the ones that I actually need. So we're on the right track, finding some hurdles to jump over, but we're doing all right. We'll be getting an aftermarket rail sometime soon, and yeah, basically that's it. So I got longer studs that I've had in that manifold, and they're now in this one. Everything is working great. I just have to cut this hole off basically in half and see if she fits then, and grind and sand whatever I need to. So that's where we're at now. Next hurdle, I'm already seeing it, is idle air control valve, because I still want to utilize it, because I drive it on the street a lot, and I do like, you know, it being able to warm up and idle on its own. I don't want to have to hold the throttle or, you know, keep, you know, just, I don't want to do that. But so next hurdle is idle air control valve, but for now we're good. I'm gonna cut this off, and then I'll show you how it looks afterwards, if it fits. I'll see if it fits, and hopefully she's good. All right, maybe because this is a B17 block or B16 block, whatever, I'm not sure, but we're having more issues with it fitting. Let me show you. All right, so our issue now, our first issue was it was hitting the thermostat housing over here. Right now it's hitting the top of the knock sensor, and this ridge right here, this little square, it's hitting that. So I'm either gonna cut this one and take the knock sensor out, or cut this one on the bottom of the manifold and cut that one. That way I don't have to touch the knock sensor and I can leave it in. Not like it's playing a part, it doesn't do anything right now, but yeah, I only have to take off a tiny bit. Probably just gonna shave the manifold and call it a day. Alright, so cut off the bottoms. Let's see if this works. Alright, well she fits. She fits fine and great and flat and Gucci. Ready to make power. So get her buttoned up and we'll catch back up probably tomorrow. Getting the idle air control valve operable. And yeah. She's bolted up. I'm gonna have to get the idle air control valve and everything situated with this. I'm gonna have to remake my intake and get the idle air control valve all hooked up, and I'm excited. Hopefully we can get some dyno time this weekend, but we'll check in tomorrow and try and figure the rest of it out. What's up, guys? So I've been in the garage for a little bit and I got the plenum done, so let me show you what we're working with now. Alright, so got the throttle body mounted, map sensor installed, TPS installed, and then on the back side we have here, I redid these all with thread tape. So this is where I wanted to put my fuel pressure regulator vacuum source, but whatever. I didn't have one small enough, couldn't find one. Got the brake booster hose. This will be for my idle air control valve feed, and then my fuel pressure regulator feed vacuum. It's ready to go on. I just have to basically put it together. The only difficult thing I'm going to have to do is the intake. Because of the intake manifold and the throttle body sits a little bit of an angle, I'm going to have to remake my intake. I might be able to weld it at work, but we'll see. And then the other issue, not really issue, but might be difficult, is adjusting the TPS, because it's on the, if you look at it when it's in the car, it's going to be on the bottom. I have the bracket for the throttle cable, but the TPS is going to be on the bottom, so it's going to be just a little bit difficult to adjust, but it's not really a huge deal. Yeah, so this is ready to go on. I'm going to put some RTV, seal it up, and then should be good to get the intake made up. A pain in the ass this manifold is turning out to be. Okay, so throttle bracket was kind of difficult to bend up. I mean, it had a bit of a bend. I had to actually bend it more, so that's good. There's not really too much space back here, but problem I'm having is the fuel lines, stock fuel lines are coming in contact with the throttle body. I thought it was the this heat change thing majig, yeah, but it's not. That was actually the fuel line. So I took the fucking charcoal box out, because, I mean, I don't need that, I guess. Put the purge line to the throttle body, so anytime I go over a certain amount of throttle, you can see that little dot up there, right there. The throttle plate will pull any fuel vapor that's in the tank. So, cool, that fixes that issue. But where the fuck do I put my filter? Like, seriously, if my fuel lines aren't long enough to move it anywhere, I just want to, like, fucking, I don't know, zip tie it up or something. Just something so it's not like jiggling and rattling and shaking and possibly breaking. And then that brings me to my next point. This was a coolant line right here that went to the underside of the throttle body, and then it would loop back down, or to the fast idle air valve, and then it would loop back down. But on this manifold, it's hard to see, but there is no other piece for the coolant to go in. So I have to cap that or somehow loop it to something else. And man, this is just, it's a little bit of a fucking pain, but it looks gorgeous and it's gonna help airflow. So I will be getting eventually JB tuned. If anybody heard of the JB tuned, we're working to get, I gotta get some measurements made up. He's gonna make some fuel lines so I can have straight fuel lines capable for E85, and I'm going to get those made up, and then I'll have AN fittings, and I'll have to get a fuel rail, obviously, and a fuel pressure regulator. And then I could possibly mount my intake air temp sensor back there, but for now I'm going to just mount it in the intake but man, this is just pain in the dick. What's up, guys? New day, same video. We made some progress. I've been here for a while and been just trying to knock shit out since it's taking longer than I expected. So let me show you what we got done. We got the throttle cable installed, got all that done. I need to hook up the idle air control valve, block off this coolant line right here, and I mounted, not really mounted, but hung the fuel filter there with metal zip ties. So I don't know if that's good. It's gonna stay there for now until I get fuel lines. I cut up the intake to make it work. This was the most strenuous part because like I couldn't fucking figure it out, but it works. It's tucked. And yeah, so I cut it up, it works. So only thing I have to do right now is, I took the header off so I could drain the coolant from there, but cap off that, mount the idle air control valve, put the header back on, coolant in it, and then we can start it. Check for fuel leaks, hook up the battery, stuff like that. Small things. Hopefully it's not going to be a huge adjustment for tuning. I mean, hopefully. What am I talking about? I don't give a fuck. I can't wait to see how much more air this delivers. Like, I know from the gate, idle's going to be lean. From the gate, cruising is going to be lean. It's just got so much more air available. And I'm stoked. I'm ready to see it on the dyno. So I'm going to hook up the idle air control valve and throw on the header, and then we can prime it and check for leaks. Alright, so this is where we've gotten. Finished capping off that coolant line. I bolted up the idle air control valve, got all the vacuum lines ran, had to run the brake booster line down there, had to cut it and fit it, keeping the check valve in place. Got the fuel pressure regulator vacuum line ran. Relocated my intake air... Oh shit. Relocated my intake air temperature sensor into the into the intake tube. This will give me more accurate temperature data, and won't get heat soaked by the manifold or anything like that. So yeah, so that's where we've gotten. I'm gonna come back tomorrow. Only thing we have to do now is set the idle with the throttle body stop. Make sure the timing in there is all good, it's all where it's supposed to be, and then get the TPS adjusted so that it's correct, so that we don't get a code, and put the header on and fill it with coolant, and we should be able to drive it and see the difference that the air from this intake manifold makes. So we'll check back tomorrow when we finish her up. Alright guys, we back, and today will be the day that we see it run with this manifold. Only thing we have to do is start it. Well, put coolant in it, put the header on, start it, adjust the idle with the stop screw on the throttle body, make sure everything's perfect on the tune, and adjust the TPS so that we have no code. But other than that, she's ready to go, guys. And I'm gonna this thing's gonna scream. Can't wait to get back on the dyno too to see the gain. I'm gonna say we crest that 180 mark. I really am. With more air, it's been able to breathe. What? Yeah, we crested 180 for sure. We might pick up, maybe, I would say, we might pick up 3 or 4 foot-pounds of torque, maybe. That would be nice. I would really like that. But yeah, let's see what happens. All right, guys. Everything's buttoned up. I have the intake off because to get to the TPS to adjust it, it's bullshit. My heater core lines are in the way, so I'm just gonna leave the intake off so I can get to that to adjust it. But I'm going to start it up, let it idle wherever it idles at. Maybe play with the throttle body screw just to get it to idle okay, so it doesn't idle crazy. And yeah, let it warm up, and once it warms up, then we can start adjusting that once it's warm. I do have to add coolant, so I'm going to add coolant now, and then we'll go for a start and see what happens. Alright, I just topped it up with coolant, spilled a little bit, whatever. And I'm going to fire her up and let her idle. Open this garage door, and we'll be set. Alright guys, let's get this first start in. The new manifold. I do have a check engine light because my intake air temperature sensor isn't plugged in, but Let's just see what happens. The idle air control valve is hooked up, so it should work. Okay. Idling a little low. Well, it's idling normal, but it should be idling high right now, so we have to wait till it warms up. The fuck? Okay. It needs more something. So let's, I'm gonna adjust the throttle body a little bit so it has more air, and then we'll start it again. Let's give this baby a couple turns. You can see the, you might not be able to see it, but the throttle plate opening. Alright, now let's see what's up. It should be idling at cold at this temperature, which is 50 degrees. It should be idling at around 1300, so let's see if this works this time. Okay, that's a lot better. Doesn't look to be no vacuum leaks. It's idling pretty good at 20 inches of vacuum, so let's let it warm up and see what happens. Alright guys, we're going to set the TPS voltage. I adjusted the throttle body, and I adjusted the idle with the throttle body, set screw, and got the timing, you know, just, yeah. Anyways, we're gonna set the TPS voltage. So you can see TPS voltage right now is at 0.47, right? And it's showing 9% TPS because this is going off of my old rating of the old throttle body. So on Neptune to set TPS, you're gonna go up here to the settings, parameters. I'm sorry, not parameters. You're gonna go up here to preferences, right up here. Click on that. You'll have this open up. TPS close voltage and TPS open voltage. Alright, close voltage, you just, while your foot's not on the pedal, you just click the thing and it'll find the voltage, and then boom, you're at 0%. Now if I click OK, you'll see the TPS, it went to 0. Perfect, I'm at 0% throttle. Now I have to calculate wide open throttle TPS voltage. So I'm gonna have to get in real quick to do this. Just my fucking thing will go off, so I'm hopping in through the window. Fuck it. Alright. Alright, now to set wide open throttle voltage, basically what you're gonna do is just hold it down. So you can see, if I hold it down, it says I'm at 108%. I should be at only 100. So I'm gonna click the circle, it sees the voltage, and then I can let off. And now see how it says 108? Let off, it's at 0 because we set that. Click OK. Now when I go to full throttle, it says 100. Perfect. TPS is now set. Now we can get on to tuning. I am going to throw on the intake and take it for a test drive, and we will catch up and see what the map looks like, how lean it is. I'll do one full throttle pull, probably in third gear, and see how much more air we have. Because if I go to the high cam fueling, right, we made peak power right around here where the peak fueling is, about 7,500. These cams shouldn't be peaking until about 8. So we should see the fueling keep raising until right about here, and then hold off and go flat. If we see that it's super lean up top, I mean, more air, more power. So if it's lean everywhere, we're making more power regardless. But if we see that it's leaned out really bad up top, that means we're feeding it so much more air, and then we can feed it so much more fuel, and instead of peaking at 7,500, we can carry power up to 8 or past 8, depending on where the cams want to go. I mean, I think it'll make power to 8, so I want to see it get lean, honestly, up here, so we can add in fuel and know that we're making more power in the higher R's. But that's basically how you read a fuel map. If you see that it's lean in a spot, like when we changed manifolds, I'm peaking right here with the stock manifold. If I see that it's gone lean above this area, that means we're taking in more air, which means we're making more power. So you add in the fuel to accommodate, and boom, you've picked up horsepower. It's basically how you can read a fuel map. If it goes lean, you added more fuel, you know you're taking in more air, you're making more power. And that's basically it. So let's go for a drive. Alright, so far the car seems to drive really smooth, to be honest. The throttle's super touchy and the car accelerates a lot quicker, obviously, because it gets to less, almost atmospheric pressure quicker because of the bigger plenum, bigger manifold, bigger throttle body. But the car blips smoother when you're downshifting, and it seems to drive a little bit smoother. Throttle's touchy as shit, so yeah, but I gotta get used to it. But it drives really, really well. I floored it a little bit on the non-VTEC, and it seems like it wants less fuel. So, and the throttle seems to be sticking a little, so we'll have to do something about that. But I'm going to do some wide open throttle pulls on the non-VTEC cam and see what the fuel looks like, and then we'll turn on VTEC and go for a rip. It's also shown to be a little bit rich, maybe because it's old fuel. It's been sitting for a while. So I'm gonna go get some gas, some fresh 93, because we ain't on that corn yet, and see if that helps at all with the AFR, because I know that old fuel can cause it to be rich because it just doesn't burn as well. So we'll go get some fuel and see what's up. All right, third gear pull, here we go. Rich, but we'll take some fuel out and see what happens. Just got fuel, we're gonna do another third gear pull, see where the fuel's at. I adjusted it a little bit. It's still a little rich down low, but top end is good. Time to turn on VTEC, boy! Alright, I got VTEC on. Let's go for a third gear pull. Took some fuel out. We're gonna do another third gear pull. It was really rich at the crossover, which I lowered so I can get fuel right. We're gonna do another third gear pull from 3000 and go. So it looks to be just a little bit rich in like the 6,000 to 8,000 range, but then it starts to get good flat and it might go lean. I moved the rev limiter up to 9100 because it felt like it kept pulling, so we are going to send it to 9100 on the next pull. this in open loop right now because I don't want closed loop doing anything. But even though it is in open loop, it was still reading the correction for the intake air temp, which was allowing it to add in fuel. So I zeroed it out and it was 6-7% lean. So I put 3% in for the intake air temp correction, and we're gonna see if it makes a difference. What's up, my dudes? So back at it again. Back at the garage again, and I'm gonna try and take care of this throttle body sticking issue. I'm just gonna take the throttle body off, open the plate, and sand the top and the bottom just a tiny bit, and check it again and see if I can get that sticking to stop. Sticking is not a huge problem when I let off the throttle quickly, but if I'm cruising and I slowly just back off and get my foot off, it sticks open. Like, it's not even much, but it's enough to change the amount of air going into the plenum, so it causes the idle to stick high a little bit. If I don't have the fuel cut off at a certain percentage, I had it at 0 with the other throttle body, which it was able to do, and it would cut off perfect, come on perfect. So I had to set it up to 2% because anything below that, and it would keep the fuel on. So I'd let off the throttle and it would just stick, like it would stay, giving the car fuel when it should cut the injectors. So I'm gonna pull the intake off, pull the throttle body off, and see if we can sand it down a little bit and see if we can get the sticking to stop. I'm gonna try and show you a little video of it. It might only happen when it's warm, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna pull up the laptop, press the throttle a little bit, slowly back off, and show you guys what it looks like when the throttle sticks. If you guys can see, it's hard to see, but that TPS voltage right there, that says 0.47. I'm wide open throttle right now. I'm gonna let it go. It's going back fine. It's cold though. The engine is cold. I think it changes. I think it actually gets hung up when the engine's warm. But so when I would let off, it would stick around 0.51. Yeah, but it would stick a little, and it would cause it to stay on. So I'm going to sand the throttle plate just a little bit, and hopefully that fixes the issue. I'm also going to grease the spring a little and inside the throttle body on the 2 pins, and see if that will help keep it from sticking. That's the issue I really don't want, but you know, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to fix it. Alright guys, so yeah, whatever, fuck the sand marks, but I sanded the top edge as the flap is open, and the bottom edge, as you can see, is a little cleaner, to try and take a little bit away from it, maybe it won't stick now. I can verify that it only happens when it's cold. I mean when it's warmed up, because I couldn't get it to do exactly what it did with the engine being extremely cold. So I sanded the top and the bottom a little bit. I put some white lithium grease in between the springs on that shaft in there, sprayed it right there as well as right there, and I cleaned it up so I'm not sucking in any. One thing I can say is with this throttle plate open, there's some up and down movement, as you can see right there. Let's see if this will focus. Come on, focus. See, back and forth movement. Not sure why that is. That could also be why it's sticking. Maybe the plate gets stuck to one side. Not sure, but yeah, I sanded it a little bit. I'm gonna put it back on and go for a drive and see if it still sticks. Let's calibrate it again. We're all good now. Everything's back together. I'm gonna start her up, let her warm up, back her out, and then we will take it for a spin. Well, throttle body is not sticking anymore. Dialing in some of the intake air temp compensations, and the map is getting pretty dialed, to be honest. This stuff, I have to clean up some of this rich stuff, but wide open throttle looks perfect. Throttle's not sticking anymore, so that's good. I don't have to worry about it fucking fueling, staying on when I'm fucking coasting, so that's good. Maybe, I don't know if it was the, look, I'll do it right now. I'll slowly let off 0.47, which is what it's set at for 0, so that's good. I grease that I sprayed on there, or if it was me sanding down the throttle plate, but it's going, so that's good, and I'm happy. Yeah, guys, we got the manifold in, and the car's running pretty well. Next video you'll see is me at the track, actually going to a test and tune tomorrow at ATGO. We're gonna get some test and tune in, and then this coming weekend we should be back at the dyno for more tuning and to see the peak power that we make now. I'm going to say a 180 to the wheels. It shifted, the fuel peak shifted up 1100 RPM, which is good. It means we're making power later in the RPM range. But if I were to say a horsepower per 100 RPM, that's 11 horsepower, which basically put me at 180. So we'll see, and checking out of this one. So later, my guys.